Hey viewers, welcome back to another video. This video will be about the top 10 motivational speakers. So let's jump right into it and start with number 10.
Someone will go through life just never really finding joy or fulfillment, and everything's just fine. How's your job? It's fine. How are your friends? They're fine. They'll go from job to job to job, hoping that the next one sticks. They go from relationship to relationship, hoping that the next one is the love that I've been looking for. They don't know how to ask for help, and it makes them feel even worse. So you have an insecure generation that doesn't have coping mechanisms. They want it all instantaneously. The problem is life, relationships, career are not destinations. Like, look, I found the job I love. It's the same with love. It's like, I found love. No, you didn't. You work hard every single day to stay in love. It's a journey.
Mexican proverb that goes like this: they tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. They tried to bury us. They didn't know we were seeds. Sometimes life will send you things that knock you down. Sometimes people will try to bury you. Sometimes experiences will happen that will shatter you. To the person thinking like a victim, those things bury us. They keep us stuck in the past. They destroy us. To the person thinking like a leader, like an A performer, like an iconic producer, those things are seeds. They will actually serve to fuel our growth. The things that cause us to suffer can also open our hearts. The things that hurt us most can also allow us to relate more to people. The things that are most difficult can also breed bravery. The things that are unexpected will also allow us to have faith in our future. So take the times in the valley of difficulty and use them to transform you and use them to serve you on your rise to your next level of greatness.
Money is not the root of all evil. The Bible just does not say that. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And anytime we worship anything, in the culture today, there are voices out there that are very, very loud and very pronounced and are supposedly steeped in intelligence that are giving us the message that money is the root of all evil. If you believe that money is evil, it naturally follows in a logical progression that people who have money must be evil. And so we get to vilify people who have become successful. This is a dangerous socioeconomic, psychographic trend. It's very dangerous because anytime you vilify success, then no one wants to become successful. Because if you're successful, you're evil, and you're evil because money is evil and you got some. You follow the progression. It's not real tough. But this drumbeat is out there, and you and I have a problem. And this culture has a problem because there's an inconsistency that goes with this. Let me help you with this. If your household income, and by the way, the average American household income is $50,000 a year. That's the average American household income right now, according to the Census Bureau. It's actually just a little bit over that. But if your household income makes considerably less than the average, and your average household income is $34,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of income earners in the world. If you make $11,000 a year, which puts you substantially below the federal poverty line, you are in the top 14% of income earners in the world. Translation: most of the families in this arena today are rich. And if money is evil and rich people are evil, I'm looking at a bunch of evil people. This is a problem, you guys. This is a serious problem. Now, I know you don't feel rich, and I know probably your family doesn't feel rich because you get to compare yourself to people who are richer. But you're in the top 1% of the world. So when people start vilifying the building of wealth, especially when it's for the positive use, it creates this hypocrisy in the marketplace, because the very people who are saying in the marketplace, doing this drumbeat about wealth is evil, are by definition wealthy people. And the problem is, in other words, that in North America today, we are the most successful group of people of this size, the United States of America, in the history of humankind. Financially, The United States of America is the largest group of financially successful people in the history of humankind. But you need to understand that there was a cause and effect, a sowing and a reaping thing that caused that to happen. The reason you and I are so wealthy as compared to the rest of the world is the Judeo-Christian ethic that is underlying our entire economy and our belief system. Even if you're not a Christian, a person of faith, that doesn't matter. You still are operating in a culture that functions with the value system of a Judeo-Christian ethic. Let me give you an example. We believe in this country that you should tell the truth. And if a company doesn't tell the truth, if you go to get your car fixed and they lie to you, that is considered a breach of ethics, and people do not do business with that mechanic again, and he goes out of business.
Abundance is the natural state of the universe. In every seed is the promise of thousands of forests. Where the abundance gets lost is in the craving and the seeking and the addiction to the idea of abundance. Money is the symbol, and wealth is a state of consciousness. When you confuse the two, you're constantly in a state of scarcity. And you think about money all the time. But if you're in a state of wealth consciousness, then money is one of its symbols.
The game of the rich. My rich dad taught me, you know it because you're the banker. The bankers and the rich play is different than what they teach you in school. All over the world, what does school teach you about money? And the answer is nothing. And that's not a mistake. That's not an accident. I knew that, most people know that. The way to keep the poor and middle class working hard is never teach them what the rich know. So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which came out in 1997, it's what the rich teach their kids about money, the poor and middle class do not. Poverty hurts. I mean, I don't like it. And I don't like that our academic system's so corrupt. You know, we know the banking system's corrupt. We know politics is corrupt, but academics is just as corrupt.
When I look at deals, it's about, okay, is it going to cash flow? What's the history of the performance of the asset? Who's managing that asset? Are they good? Are they great? Or are they poor? Because, you know, that's going to really drive that performance of the asset. So if we take it over, maybe we got to get them out of there. So I'm vetting every deal, making sure the next 5 years that asset can really perform very well. So then, after both my funds have performed very well, I sold the Lakers, which Dr. Buss let me invest. He said, Irvin, if you write a $10 million check, I'll let you into the Lakers. And at that time, the Lakers were moving up strong. I said, oh, yes, I'll write the check. And sure enough, what a great investment. So I exited the Lakers and Starbucks at the same time. And who would have ever thought the Dodgers would be for sale? Man. And I teamed up with Guggenheim and Mark Walters and Todd, those guys, what, $200 billion in assets? And we formed a great team, and we went in and bought the Dodgers for $2 billion, and everybody said they're the stupidest businessmen on the face of the earth for paying $2 billion for the Dodgers. Until our TV deal just came out at $8 billion, they said, oh, they're the smartest guys. So we went from stupid to smart very quick. And the reason we thought the Dodgers was going to do very well is because of the brand. See, a lot of times what I invest in, not only the asset, but the executive team, but also the brand. We knew if we could repair the relationship with the fans, increase the fan experience, put some money into the team and to the stadium, that the fans would come back. And sure enough, last season, we were #1 in attendance in MLB. We were also the #1 road team in attendance in MLB. And so the Dodgers are back, the fans are back, because everything we promised them, we have delivered. And when we think about it, we feel this year and this season, we're going to go over 4 million fans. And so we're excited about the Dodgers. And thank you. Yeah, we're excited about that investment. And what I didn't mention is we have also 300 acres of land. What we paid for the Dodgers is probably what those 300 acres are worth. So you look at the Dodgers, that was an incredible investment. Some people say a risky investment, but I say you have to sometimes take risk as long as you minimize that risk and understand what you're getting yourself into. I'm a guy who will go for it. I've always been a guy who thought and think outside the box. I never want to still stay inside that box. And so then I have a food service business, same thing. They said risky, but we have some incredible contracts. I have over 40 contracts. And what companies are looking for right now is minority spend. How can they increase their minority spend? And so with my company, they not only get the best and fresh food and healthy food, but they also get minority spend with having my company as their client. And so we have Disneyland, Disney World, we have those contracts. I serve food at Toyota, their headquarters here in Los Angeles. Allstate Insurance, their headquarters in Chicago. American Airlines, if any of you flew and went into the Atmos Club, all the cheese, crackers, sodas, beers, that's through my company. If you flew Delta through the Sky Clubs, everything there is through my companies as well. So I'm a guy who has made major investments, but at the same time, when I look at the Sodexo Magic investment, it has paid off dearly.
The quality of my entire life is nothing but the quality of my habitual emotions. Whatever habits of emotion, wherever my emotional home is, I will find a way to get back there. And until I change that, I'm gonna have a problem. How many of you see people in some part of the world, in my country, for example, you'll see this in the middle of America where there's certain places that have cyclones all the time. Or maybe down in New Orleans or places where every few years you get a huge storm that wipes out everybody right on the coast there. But then 2 years later, it happens again. They rebuild, it happens again. How many have ever thought to yourself, why don't these people move? And why don't they move, guys? Because it's what they're conditioned. They call that home. I don't want to leave my home, it's what I know. It's easy to see when it's somebody else and it's physical. It's harder to see when it's yourself and it's emotional, because we have an emotional home. Some of you grew up in a really tough environment. I did too. Pretty brutal environment. Very painful environment. Part of I am who I am is because I didn't want to suffer. I had to find answers. And because I suffered so much, I don't want you to ever suffer if I can do anything about it. I can't control it, but I can help massively. But it's only because I suffered so much, I don't want anybody else to. But think about it. Most people suffer even when they're successful. Listen, if you're successful and you're not fulfilled, that's the ultimate failure. If you got people that love you and you're not feeling joyous and alive, something's wrong. And you know what it is? You got an old home you're used to. Maybe the home you're used to is not a very happy home. It's a home of worry, a home of frustration, a home of anger, a home of feeling everything's unjust. And so you find a way to get back home using whatever the environment you can use. How many of you know somebody who's always pissed off about something? How many of you know somebody who is always worried? How many of you know someone who's not really funny, but they think they are? And they crack themselves up telling stupid jokes? How many know someone like this who cracks themselves up and they laugh so much that even though it's not funny, you find yourself laughing too? These people have different emotional homes. Some people's home is anger. They'll always find something to be angry about. It's what they're used to. It's their conditioning. So even when the storm comes in and messes up their life, they go right back to that same shit. Wouldn't it be nice to upgrade your home, your emotional home where you live? What if you could live every day with a vast majority of the emotions you had were joy and gratitude and love and appreciation, even in the middle of COVID, even when somebody does something unjust, compassion, playfulness? What would that feel like if you were in those states every day, 90-95% of the time? When you weren't, you got out of it quick. You can make that change this weekend, and I'm not exaggerating an ounce. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect and never have a negative feeling, because negative feelings are sometimes a signal to make us change. But most people have a negative feeling and they just hang on to it and keep living with it and find other things to be negative about. That will never give you what you want. The money won't do it. The acknowledgement of others won't do it. Everything you think will do it will not do it. Only one thing will do it. You drawing a line in the sand and making the most important decision of your life, that you're going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. Because life is too short to suffer. And we have a choice. Listen to me. Pain is sometimes part of life, but suffering is a choice. But for most of us, not a choice, because we have the habit of suffering, being stressed, being worried, being frustrated, being pissed off. And because we're wired that way, that's the muscle we built. But if we rebuild our home here so it's even more magnificent, then you can have the life that you desire and deserve. And you can do it in one weekend only if you give your all and push enough energy out while you're doing it, while you're learning.
When you're in school, when you're growing up in life, it actually sort of matters to people how you look. And then it matters to you because it matters to others. And the fear that we have is that we're going to be alone, that we're not good enough. And, we have to change ourselves. And, so many people put me down and say, Nick, you look too weird and no one's really your friend and you can't do this and you can't do that. And I couldn't change anything. It's not like just fixing my hair one day and everything's fine. I couldn't change my circumstance. I couldn't just one day wake up and say, hey, give me arms and legs. I need arms and legs. It was so hard because people put me down. And I started believing that I was not good enough. I started believing that I was a failure, that I'd never ever be somebody who people would like or people would accept. And it was so hard, man. I thought to myself, I can't go on the soccer field like everybody else, and I can't ride my bike, and I can't skateboard and all these sort of things. And I started getting depressed. I thought, what kind of purpose do I have to live? I mean, are you just here to live to die? I mean, is there not a purpose for me? Is there not a purpose in life? And I had questions and no answers. And I asked my mum and dad, why did this happen? I asked doctors, why did this happen? And they don't know. There are some things in life that are out of your control that you can't change and you got to live with. The choice that we have, though, is either to give up or keep on going. I want to ask you, what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe in yourself? Are you going to believe everybody else's judgment on you? How did I get from depressed to who I am today? Because I tell you, I was depressed. When I was age 8, I used to concentrate on the things I didn't have. I wish I had arms and legs, and I wish I could do this, but what can I do? You see, I have a choice. I can either be angry for not having arms and legs or be thankful for my chicken drumstick. And I'm traveling around the world. It's amazing. But I had to ask myself a couple questions. And the first question was really, who am I? Who am I? I'm Nick Vujicic, but who is that? Because there's nothing good about having no limbs. But I love my life. Do you want to know why? Because I've seen the purpose. When you see me for the first time, many of you felt sorry for me. Do you feel sorry for me anymore? No. Why? Because you know who I am. But don't you remember I have no arms and no legs? Would you want to be my friend?
Failures. First time I tried for the SAS, I was failed. And the raw truth is that I wasn't fast enough, I wasn't smart enough, and I wasn't good enough. And that truth hurt. People often don't know that I failed selection the first time, but my failures far outweigh the successes. I look at those failures and I know that they have made me. They've built my resilience and they've forced me to adapt. They've forced me to get stronger, because there is no shortcut to any of our goals that's going to avoid failure. You've got to go through it if you're going to succeed. Comfort isn't really comfort if you haven't earned it. In other words, that first failure was actually the key. So you've got to embrace it. Don't run from the failure. Understand their role. Failure is just an essential mark you've got to pass through. The next, and this one shapes all of us, and it's called fear. Because life is scary sometimes, and all of us face battles. Battles of confidence and nerves. Battles where we have to face giants in our life, and those giants can be really frightening. But it's a universal truth that whoever you are, life is going to test us all. But it's how you react to that testing that determines everything. Life doesn't always just reward the brilliant. Life rewards the dogged, the determined, those who can walk towards their fears despite the giants, to embrace the difficult stuff, know the answer to the things I fear. Face it, don't run. Use it, become friends with it. Because life and experience has repeatedly shown me that when we can edge towards our fears, they often melt away. Because the only way you're ever going to get over your fear is right through the middle. And our fears are just part of life, part of what makes us real. Life doesn't require you to be perfect. Perfect does not exist. What life says is keep moving, always forward. And when you're scared, use it like a driver. And that is where the fire comes in. The fire to keep moving forward against the odds, to endure beyond what is normal. It's about delivering that little bit extra when it really matters. And it's always been the unwritten motto of the British Special Forces, the words, always a little further. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often just that little word extra. But what's going to make the difference is when not 1 ounce of you thinks you can. You're the ones who've turned around and given me that little bit extra. And it's that that makes our work here extraordinary. Always a little further.
This world. There are a lot of things that are beyond our control. But what you do have control over is how you react to whatever happens in your life. What I now know is that we all become exactly what you believe. So if you believe that you can do all things because you have been endowed by a power from on high, given to you by the grace of God, if you believe that, you walk into the world understanding that whatever problems you may encounter, you still have God to lean on. As I grew, my perception and understanding of what God means grew with me. I expanded my view of what it means to be a citizen of the universe, to be a part of the energy field that is omnipotent, omniscient, all-knowing, and all-present in all things. And so my confidence comes from knowing that there is something greater than myself, that I am a part of and is also a part of me. I call that God, but I do nothing without that understanding. How I think one masters one's life is to understand that you are co-creating that life with the ultimate creator. Not understanding that puts you at your own pitiful, meager little will. And everything is left up to you. And you can't do it. You cannot survive in this world by yourself, just believing in yourself. You're not big enough to do it. I'm not big enough to do it. Nobody's big enough to do it. You have to understand that your very presence here as a human being on earth came from something greater than you. And not just your parents who wanted to have a child. The fact that that egg was hit by that particular little sperm in that particular moment, and you were created. Wow. How amazing is that? Of all the different choices that had to happen in order for you to be here now. What a celebration that is.